evening, welcome to Central News for Friday the 30th of August. I'm Hilary Entwistle. In today's news, Bay Plenty Regional Council has allocated $40.5 million to infrastructure projects that will create employment and education opportunities across the region, with no impact on rates in coming years. Regional Council created the Regional Infrastructure Fund several years ago through sale of perpetual preference shares in Quayside Holdings, their investment vehicle for their majority ownership of the Port of Tauranga. Council has allocated up to $5 million to the Marine Precinct at Silver Point, which will provide purpose-built marine servicing facilities and infrastructure supporting the maritime industry in the sub-region. Strategy General Manager Fiona McTavish says the funding is unique as they are not aware of any other council in New Zealand providing funding like this.
No, we're not aware of any that are doing this, but there certainly is real interest in what we have done.
Confusion is growing amongst local body candidates after Tauranga City Council was found to be giving two different dates for when election signs can go out. The candidates' handbook states candidates can erect signs up to 4 weeks before the election from September the 14th, but the city plan still states election signs can be placed on private property 6 weeks before the election from September the 1st. The candidates' handbook came out in two versions. The first one, handed out at the candidates' meeting on July 16, stated 6 weeks. A reprinted version stated 4 weeks. Final details are in place for the 2013 Tauranga Police CIB charity auction, with one item being dubbed the Gold Prize. The auction at the ASB Arena on September the 27th will feature 138 items for auction, including a Peter Jackson world premiere of The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug package. This includes 2 tickets to the premiere in Los Angeles in December with return Air New Zealand flights and 2 nights accommodation at the Manhattan Beach Marriott and Golf Club in Los Angeles. Tauranga Police CIB Charitable Trust Trustee, Detective Senior Sergeant Pete Blackwell, says the item is gold because the tickets are not available anywhere else. Almost 11,400 native trees and shrubs will be planted along more than 1 kilometre of Waikato River bank near Huntly during a major planting project being undertaken by Waikato River Care in early September. The Rahui Pōkeka A project is being funded by $60,000 from the Waikato River Authority, and the first of 3 major tree planting projects it has funded through the charitable organisation Waikato River Care. The Waikato Regional Council and the Huntly-based Wāhi Whānau Trust have been instrumental in promoting and supporting the site as a restoration opportunity. Work on the planting project is expected to start on September the 2nd and be completed by September the 6th. The project involves planting native trees and shrubs along a stretch of riverbank, starting at the southern boundary of Huntly Township as you drive along State Highway 1 and ending at the Waikato District Council water treatment plant on Jackson Road. Now for our region's weather for the weekend. Hamilton, your Saturday will be fine with morning frosts and a southeast breeze. Your expected high is 15 and an overnight low of 4. Tauranga, your Saturday will bring fine weather, morning frosts and southeasterly breezes. Your expected high is 16 and an overnight low of 7. Your Sunday, Hamilton, will bring more fine weather with another chilly start and southeasterly breezes. Your expected high is 16 and an overnight low of 5. Sunday for you, Tauranga, will see another cold start and another fine day. And once again, your expected high is 16 and an overnight low of 5. Just ahead, the fight to reduce the amount of pokies in Hamilton City. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. Hamilton has lost almost $23 million in the last year to the 460 pokie machines which exist in the pubs and clubs around the city. It has been identified that this kind of personal expenditure increases both poverty and harm within our region. Cheryl Smith has spent the last month campaigning to see a decrease in the number of machines available within Hamilton. We caught up with her to find out how it has been going.
So at the start of the month, you held a meeting as part of your campaign. What was this meeting about?
Yeah, it was for anyone in the community really, particularly people that are in community groups who wanted to make a submission to council on their local gambling policy review that's all happening at the moment. So we wanted to be supportive and provide resources and information, and also just have people gather, as a group to talk about what they might want to know for their submission.
How often do the council review local policy?
I understand that they review the policies every 3 years, but if they are not making any changes or amendments to those policies and they just want to roll them over perhaps, they don't have to do any sort of full public consultation about that. It's when they want to make a change that they call for public consultation, and so that happens at least every 6 years.
Do you think the chance for the public to have a say doesn't come round often enough?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, because if there are, sometimes we want changes, like in this case we'd really like to have a sinking lid with no exceptions, and I think people feel strongly about that. So the more people can speak out and the more opportunity they have for that, the better it is as far as we're concerned.
So you have said before that gambling harms us all. How?
When you think about one person that has a problem with gambling themselves and the stress level that they might experience around that, all the things that are happening with them in terms of losing their money, getting worried about things, getting distracted in terms of their relationships with other people because a lot of their thinking is focused around gambling, you start to then think about what's actually happening in those families and those relationships with their partners, and what's the stress level in the household like when there's a person dealing with all of that and maybe not being open about what it is that they're dealing with. So from there you've got families in distress, maybe without enough resources, so they might be approaching community groups for either for help or support, or even for things like food parcels, food banks and that sort of thing. And if there's any crime involved, then we've got a whole justice system. Sometimes even family violence, we've got police involved. So those kinds of things involve all of us really. It's hard to conceive now, for me, it's hard to conceive of gambling as being the isolated thing that sometimes it's portrayed as.
Now you're presenting a submission based on a clinical perspective after dealing with people who are struggling with gambling. So what sort of things will this submission contain?
What I'm wanting to really talk about, because we get 5 minutes each to make our submissions, and so it has to be pretty much to the point. And what I'm wanting to convey is the effects on those people whose voices sometimes aren't heard, which is the partners and families and children often who are suffering as a result of gambling harm happening in their family or with people that they know. So I'm really wanting to make sure that council know that the impact is much broader, just as you've asked me, the impact is much broader than a person with a problem with gambling.
What has the public support been like in the form of submissions?
Really good. Where we've managed to get out and get people talking about what their feeling is about pokie gambling in particular, we know that there's a strong feeling about reducing the number of pokies. The reason that that's useful is because under current legislation it really is our only and best form of reducing the number of pokie machines is to get a sinking lid, and that's a true sinking lid that we want with no exceptions. So a lot of people are telling us they know somebody, and it didn't used to be the case quite so much a couple of years ago, but what I've found is now I kind of end up saying to people, gee, everybody knows somebody, it seems.
Ideally, what would you like to see changed in regards to the way that Hamilton does gambling?
Yeah, at the moment, as I say, with the current legislation, the best that we can do is ask the council to put in a sinking lid that has no exceptions to it, because at the moment there are exceptions, and so if a venue is going to close, we would like the machines to be gone and not replaced. At the moment people can apply to the council for various reasons to get those machines replaced, so that maybe the numbers aren't growing, but they're certainly not reducing either. And because of the ease of access that people have to pokie machines in our community and the high risk that's involved when people access them frequently, we think that reducing the number is a really good way of addressing that to begin with.
Now, the hearing date has been brought forward, so when can the public expect to be aware of the decision that has been made?
Yeah, apparently it's quite a quick process, I was finding out. So our submissions are heard in the morning, the council will deliberate in the afternoon, and once they've had their deliberation time, they will come out with a decision. So whether that's announced on the same day or the next day, it's pretty quick.
Now, there is another big gambling event coming up. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, every year there is Gamble Free Day, and so across the country there are celebrations about finding other things to do that are family friendly that don't involve gambling. And this year it coincides with Father's Day, so September the 1st, Gamble Free Day, finding fun things for families to do that don't involve gambling.
And what have you got planned for Hamilton?
What'll be really great is one of the bits that I enjoy about my job is getting out to the base, which is next Friday, the 30th, I believe, of August, to just meet with people, hand out free resources, chat with people and find out what their thoughts are. Always really good for me to know how the depth of feeling is increasing about pokie gambling in particular. And yeah, we're going to be outside the warehouse at the base between about 10 and 2.
Coming up next, a temporary tattoo to help you with your sunblock. Welcome back. The Young Innovators Award, held by Priority One, is a way for young people to develop their ideas and gain recognition for their bright minds. Last night we chatted with the senior winner. Tonight we chat with the Junior Supreme winners and the Ōtōmōtei College YIA teacher. Why does Ōtōmōtei College get involved with YIA every year?
Well, we've been involved with it for 4 years now since it started. It's a great opportunity to actually enable students to actually push ahead with broader thinking.
What do you think the students get out of the experience?
I think most subjects in the school, science, technology, would love to actually offer things that promote problem solving and thinking outside the square, but sometimes it's a little difficult, and so to do within a curriculum. I think this is an opportunity for students to actually explore ideas and then use all aspects of all different curriculums as needed.
What is your role with the Young Innovator Awards and students?
Not much really, to be honest. I actually lay credit to this year's winners really with their teachers Patrick Johnson and Andrew Crawford, who've done a lot of work with these students. But my role basically is just to actually coordinate it and make sure that I can encourage students and fire them up with a passion for problem solving. Why do you think it's important that we encourage young innovators? I think this goes to the heart of the Callaghan report as well. The New Zealand of the Year a couple of years ago sadly passed away, but his initiative that New Zealand actually grows stronger through innovation and by the technology research and development skills that we can offer as a country, rather than necessarily just the practical kind of skills that we actually employ. How can we try and encourage people to take part next year? That's a really good question. It's not as easy as one might think to actually come up with an original idea or to innovate an existing product. It actually takes quite a lot of research to come up with something that's unique. Well, thank you very much, Kevin. Now let's meet the Junior Supreme winners. What was your winning entry?
It was a solar sensitive tattoo that you put on your skin when you're just going to the beach or going outside, and you apply sunscreen over top, and when it's exposed to UV rays it changes colour. So Marnie, how did you guys come up with the idea?
Well, we always throw around different ideas that we think might be possible, and then the Young Innovators Awards came around and that kind of gave us the opportunity to push this idea further, so it seemed like something good that we could do.
Ariana, what was the prize for your win?
Well, we got a trophy and also a $1,000 cheque which we split 3 ways.
Did New Zealand's high rate of skin cancer kind of inspire your idea?
I think there was there were a few sectors in the awards, and one of them was health. So we thought we'd tackle that area, and the sun safety was what was involved with it.
And also because of the deteriorating ozone layer above New Zealand.
So what was the process of putting it all together?
Well, our original idea was to actually have a bracelet, but we didn't think that that would be ideal. So after brainstorming a bit further, the idea of a tattoo came up. And so we thought that would just be a little more convenient than having a bracelet, and so we just took it from there.
Why did you guys want to enter?
Well, it was part of our science curriculum to enter, and our science teacher, Mr. Johnston, he encouraged us to do it, and it also seemed like a cool competition to do.
So you actually found out that it works better with sunblock?
Yeah. It doesn't work on sunscreen because it doesn't completely block out UV rays, whereas sunblock does, and so if you use sunscreen it won't be as accurate.
So sunblock is better?
Well, we kind of just gave each other different things that we would tackle. So she researched about the sunblock, and while we did different things about like the technical things of the tattoo, and we all came together and just put it together to create this idea.
What was your role in the whole process?
I mostly looked at sunblock and if it was going to work with our idea and things like that.
And what did you do for the whole project?
I worked on the process of making the tattoo to work out if it was possible to get the materials to work them together to make the tattoo.
And what was your role?
I was researching into who our target market would be and just what the final design of the tattoo would look like.
Coming up next, business and local government. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. The business community are being encouraged to give feedback on what they think are ways that local government can be improved. The Tauranga Chamber of Commerce are holding a series of forums. I spoke with Anne to find out how you can get involved in having your say on the council.
They are focus groups with our members, the chamber members or the business community, and from that we'll gain some information about what they consider these local body elections mean to them, what kind of governance they're looking for. We've just run surveys through the business community and getting some really interesting results, which will then inform the focus groups, which then inform another survey that we'll run with all the potential candidates. So the information that we get from the surveys, the focus groups will then ask the candidates in a survey, and it will also inform the questions that we ask at the mayoral forum and the candidates evening. So we're trying to gain, we're not just saying we think we know the answers, we're saying you, the business community, tell us what is important to you, what do you think and what do you want from local government.
Why do you think it was important to run these?
I think it's really important. I think the change of the executive powers to the mayor will alter the way things are done in the future. I think the city has had a long-term situation of cost, not investment, and so these local body elections are very important, that the business community A, understands the importance of voting, and B, what that can mean. So you've always got to keep in touch with this.
Do you think that people in business take enough interest in local government?
Yes and no. So the ones that are interested are really interested, and the ones that aren't just really don't care. They're just, particularly in the last 3 or 4 years, have just been getting on with business, and in fact it's been often a survival. So local government is just that thing that sits over there and puts my rates up and appears to make it difficult to do business. That's as much as it means, but their ability to change that is often misunderstood.
How can local government regulations affect the day-to-day running of a business?
Well, in fact, local government affects the day-to-day running of business much more than central government, because it's actually the things that they make their bylaws and the laws on that impact you locally tomorrow. So central government has a long process to change any kind of act or anything at all like that, and that is usually a high overarching act. So if you're talking the RMA, that's what sits above everything, but how it's implicated is what local government has a large impact on. So when you think of it like that, local government has a huge ability to impact on what you do tomorrow in your business or your backyard.
Do you think that smaller businesses are affected more by local government regulations, or big organisations or bit of both?
I think it's a mixture of both, frankly. You know, if you were to take the port and how that does business, it has a huge, what local government does, particularly around, for instance, the dredging of the harbour, that has a lot to do with a big business. But it's very specific, and they often have within their teams people that are managing that process. If you took a smaller business, they don't have those people inside their teams, and the things that happen in local government still impact those small businesses, but they are much less able to be in a position of advocating. So that's why they turn to places like the Chamber and hope that we're advocating for and on behalf of business and helping them, the smaller person, deal with it. So there is again, it's that mixture of what really works for big business and what is working for smaller business.
Does a city council's debt affect the business community?
Not especially, no. I think they, as individuals or ratepayers, they get concerned about it, but it doesn't impact. What it does impact is the way the city invests back into its city. So if the council are really concerned about debt and they're not thinking of investment, they won't be doing those things that might grow the city. They're much more about keeping the debt low. So it does impact, but that's as an individual more than as specifically about a business.
Do any of the businesses that you work with feel constricted by local government?
Yes, they all do. Always. They would tell you if you ask them, they always feel constricted because they can't do what they want to do tomorrow. But again, it's that system of working around it. If you're, for instance, if you're setting up a cafe or a hospitality business, there's a lot of compliance that you need to apply for and to get it all sorted and how that. Now, if you're setting that business up, that feels like it's a constraint. It is set out to keep the general rather than the specific. But so if your question is, does business feel constrained? Individually, yes. Is it a good or a bad thing? I'm not really in a position to answer because it does, different businesses have different impacts. But then yes, small business particularly feels constrained.
Some say that, you know, councils need to cut the red tape in order for a city to thrive. Do you think there's an element of truth in that?
It depends what you call red tape. You know, what some people consider as red tape is protection for others. And I'm sounding a little bit like a government bureaucrat here, and trust me, I'm not. But it is, you know, so if you're setting up a business that might impact on your neighbour is looking to go, well, I don't want that to be the rubbish dump next door to me or the car processing or the metal processing yard. I want to have some protections. So what feels like constraints can sometimes be protections. So you've got to sort of weigh it all up and check which one is actually working the best.
You can find out more about this event on their website, tauranga.org.nz. That is the news for today and this week. We really want you to be involved, so like us on Facebook, let us know your views. If you have your own news, including your own video and photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. I will be back next week with more guests from in and around our regions. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Have a lovely evening and a fantastic weekend.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.